Hello, class. My name is Joseina de Leon, and my capstone project is called The Connection Between Bilingualism and Self-Esteem, a linguistic self-esteem comparison between Latino younger adults and Latino older adults. I picked the subject because I'm interested in how language is connected to self-esteem in bilingual individuals. Growing up as a Latina bilingual myself, I have often wondered how self esteem is reflected in individuals who speak both the English and Spanish language. For this project, I will be comparing linguistic self esteem in young adults and older adults. Okay, so to start off this presentation, I will be talking a little bit about my abstract and specifically about bilingualism and linguistic self esteem. Bilingual individuals learn to express themselves and their emotions in two different languages using different words, phrases, and stories. Self esteem is connected to social interaction as it affects the way that we express ourselves. Language is the main tool that humans use to express themselves to another individual or group of people with the same language. In a previous study done by Dr. Bauer, she spoke about linguistic self esteem, which was measured with a tool that she created called Language Efficacy and Effect Dimension Scale, or in other words, LEADS, on Latino adolescents. In this study, a modified version of this tool will be administered to young adults and older adults. Before this tool is administered to them, their fluency in both Spanish and English will be tested with a writing assessment. Participants will be recruited through CUNY email and my personal social media sites. And then the study will be administered through Google Forms. Language is a huge part of the development of an individual throughout their life. In our early years, we develop the ability to express our emotions and thoughts with words, phrases, and stories. Human beings start as monolingual individuals, only being able to express themselves with one language, knowing one way to say something. As the years go by, more and more individuals become multilingual, whether that is by choice or by the constant exposure of multiple languages in their environment. According to Grosjean, in 2018, the number of bilinguals have doubled since in the United States since 1980. So this study will be looking at the relationship between age and linguistic self-esteem in Latino individuals. Both younger adults and older adults will be studied. This research study will answer the question, is age and linguistic self-esteem connected? And if so, does older age lead to higher linguistic self-esteem? The theory that will be used to examine the study will be Vygotsky's social cultural theory. Vygotsky argues that what an individual learns in the social world would be internalized, and in this case, it is language, and will therefore become part of their higher psychological function and identity. For this study, each participant will be fluent in both English and Spanish and will be self-rating their efficacy in both languages with the LEADS tool, which Dr. Bauer used in her study, which she kindly sent to me and gave me permission to use. In her study, it was found that linguistic self-esteem was not significantly correlated with language proficiency within adolescence. Dr. Bauer expresses in her article that social interactions' influence on self-esteem has been particularly negative for Spanish-English bilingual students in the United States due to English being the mandated language in schools. This study will see if the negative impact of social interactions carries on into higher education and the workplace. As every day passes, more and more individuals are growing up in the United States as a bilingual individual, and it is important to examine what attitudes they have in regards to developing an identity that expresses both languages. According to an article by Ayers in 2003, knowing two languages can sometimes be viewed as a barrier, and oftentimes it can also be viewed as something that we are proud of. I can relate to this. It can be viewed as a barrier when taking certain tests, like academic tests that only rely on the English language, and it can be viewed as something that they are proud of, for example, within their communities where they express themselves in both languages. In this study, the independent variable is a subject variable because it is a trait that the subject has that cannot be changed. The subject variable for the study is the age of the participant. In this study, the dependent variable is the individual's linguistic self-esteem. Every individual has self-esteem. Since this study will be done on younger and older adults, it is important to note that previous research that has been done connecting self-esteem and academic success. It is also important to note that these individuals who speak a language other than English, self-esteem went up when they felt like they were included. The hypothesis for this study is older age leads to higher linguistic self-esteem. Participants in the study will include 30 Latino young adults ranging from ages 18 to 30 and 30 Latino older adults ranging from ages 40 to 52. Participants will all be required to know both English and Spanish. The participants' fluency will be assessed by asking the participants to write up 75 to 100 words about what their favorite food is or what their favorite restaurant is in both English and Spanish. The participants' fluency will be assessed by me. All participants in the studies will be volunteers. Some participants will be recruited through the CUNY SPS email database, the student email database. And some of the participants will be recruited through my personal social media outlets such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp. Participants will be recruited through convenience sampling. To continue the methods section, the materials that will be used is as follows. The consent forms will be provided to the participants to inform them about the procedure, benefits, and risk of the study. It will be explained that the risk of the study are minimal. As mentioned before, the participants will be asked to write 75 to 100 words in both English and Spanish to assess their fluency. And then for the linguistic self-esteem tool, the LEADS tool, a modified version of the LEADS tool will be used. So, for example, the original tool was made for adolescents. This will be modified to fit younger adults and older adults. An example statements include some adults find it easy to speak English. Some adults enjoy speaking English. Some adults find it easy to speak Spanish. Some adults enjoy speaking Spanish. And then the answers would include really true for me or sort of true for me, things like that. So now let's talk about the procedure of this study. I will prepare an introduction with the purpose of studies for the participants. After this, I will post an introduction to the social media sites, including a link to both the Spanish and English version of the survey and informed consent. I will also send out a mass email to the CUNY SPS students attaching the same introduction, links, and informed consent. Participants will be informed that it will take them about 20 minutes to complete the assessment and the survey. The participants will be assigned to 2 conditions at the beginning when asked for the age, which will put them in either the younger adult section or the older adult group. The demographic questions will be put first to determine what group they are put in and whether or not their survey answers will be accounted for. If the participant age lands between 30 and 40 years old, their answers will not be used. Next, the language assessment will be presented to assess language fluency. Lastly, the participants will be asked to complete the LEADS tool and then click submit on the Google Forms website. So now let's talk about the planned analysis. In this study, the data will be analyzed with the use of an independent samples t-test. The scale of measurement used for our dependent variable of linguistic self-esteem is ratio, with possible value leading from low linguistic self-esteem to high linguistic self-esteem. This study will have a between-group study design. Each participant will be exposed to the writing assessment and the LEADS tool once. The researcher will then analyze the participants' answers to the LEADS tool. The independent samples t-test will allow the research to come up with a mean and a standard deviation. The test statistic that will be reported is the T statistic, which will be associated with the p-value. Whether or not the p-value is less or more than 0.05 will decide whether or not the null hypothesis will be rejected. The null hypothesis will be rejected if the p-value is less than 0.05, meaning that there is a significant difference that older age does lead to higher linguistic self-esteem. The null hypothesis will not be rejected if the p-value is more than 0.05, meaning that there is not a significant difference that older age does not lead to higher linguistic self-esteem. So now let's talk about the limitations of the study. Limitations of this study will include time limitation of financial resources. Limitations also include there only being one researcher who will be assessing the writing component and the leads tool. Limitations also include the accuracy of the translation and back translation of the scale from English to Spanish and Spanish back to English. Potential threat to internal validity may include the effect of the assessment on the participants' answers on the lead tool. Participants may have less energy to complete the lead tool once they are done with the assessment, which can affect the answers that they give on the tool. And this threat will be minimized by informing the participant that the survey will take about 20 to 25 minutes to complete before they take the survey. Potential threat to external validity may include the sample not accurately applying to the Latino population. So this threat will be minimized by asking the participants at the beginning of the Google Form survey for their age, where they reside, and whether or not they are Latino. So I hope that all of you enjoyed my presentation. I do look forward to your feedback, and I hope you all have a great vacation. See you next semester.